Okay, welcome back everyone. Welcome to a new trading week. This is Jeff here with FXMindshift, and welcome to your Sunday weekly review. So if you take a look at our calendar this week, we've got a pretty full schedule, lots of red news folders, pretty much every day of the week, except for Tuesday. But starting with Monday for Euro and for GBP, we've got the flash manufacturing and flash services PMI news folders, right, from 4:15 through to 5:30 a.m. And then in the US session, we have the US dollar flash manufacturing flash services PMI folders. That's going to be at 9:45 a.m., right? And then we've got a speech here for GBP at 2 p.m. Tuesday, no red folders, but Wednesday, we've got CPI for GBP and tentative annual budget release. Thursday, we've got final GDP and unemployment claims for USD at 8:30. And then Friday, we've got GBP retail sales and also USD core PCE price index in the New York session. Right? And then this weekend, for those of you in the UK and Europe, there are going to be some changes to your clocks, right? So daylight savings shift finally for you guys catching up to the US folk that changed their clocks a couple weeks back, right? So that is what we have on the calendar. So let's take a look at the charts. We're going to go over to the dollar index and start with our monthly top down, as we always do. So if we take a look at the dollar here on the monthly, we can see from the move this month, which has been largely bearish, right? Continuing to hold bearish here. We did trade into this monthly imbalance here and gave us a little bit of a bounce back. Okay, so you can see we have retraced just a little bit back above the 104 price level here. Okay, and so right now we're going to see if we're going to get some continuation, right, filling the rest of the imbalance here, or if this retracement here, maybe we go back a little bit into further retracement back up into the range. On the monthly, the draw on liquidity for me right now is going to be for all of these lows down here. Okay, so the reaction from this monthly will be with this big, push to the downside after taking liquidity above the internal structure here. Liquidity resting below all of these lows, the generated sell side down here is going to be the target for the monthly for me right now. So obviously it may take a few months for price to get down there, obviously, but this to me right now is a bearish draw on liquidity on the monthly chart. All right, let's drop down to the weekly here, and let's see if we can get a little bit more recent price action. So if we take off the monthly markups and put up the weekly, right, we can see that price recently took out this low over here, okay, and retracing back into the big weekly imbalance that we created on this big push down. So right now retracing into the imbalance, we certainly could just, react from this retracement and go lower, okay, but as it is, we close the week bullish. So I'm going to expect a little bit more bullish momentum going into this week, right, before eventually dropping and selling off again. So at the moment, I would say at the start of the week, we should see some bullishness. Okay, trading maybe back a little bit further into this imbalance, and then seeing, once we get some reaction or bearish reaction that sends price lower, then we can look for lower prices again, right? But ultimately, we did create a huge push down, and now we're retracing into that imbalance area here. We could even make it all the way back up to this change of character here to mitigate the swing low. Right, that could be a nice, interesting move to the upside here for the dollar if it decides to do so this week. But as I said, it doesn't need to. I mean, it could just sell off from where we are if we get a big bearish reaction sometime, this week. Right, so let's drop down to the daily, and let's take a look at the daily. So the daily imbalance here, right? If we put the weekly up in perspective, the weekly is much bigger, of course. Trading into the daily imbalance here is going to be a smaller and more focused target. Okay, and then you can see that we recently took out this swing low over here, okay, and pushed above, giving us this little daily change of character, right? So ultimately, I'm looking for price to retrace back up into this daily imbalance or the weekly imbalance area. So if we do get, a move higher, that would be likely where we see the next bearish reaction, right, for the move down. So I'm expecting something like this, basically, right? Trade into the imbalance and then the continuation. I just don't know how high or how big this retracement into this imbalance is going to be, but that's what I will be expecting, okay? The most logical and the earliest target we can reach for is going to be this high right here. Okay, so at the start, right at the start of the imbalance, if we can trade into that and then get a reaction lower, then we'll look for price to continue lower after that, right? So let's take a look at the 4-hour and see how that looks on the 4-hour. So from the 4-hour perspective, right, structure has been broken to the upside here after we did this little sweep of liquidity from the previous low, okay? And then we got, you can see how order flow, bullish order flow, continually being respected as we trade back into this first H4 bullish order block, pushing price higher, right? Breaking the internal structure, coming back, retesting the bullish imbalance that was created off of that push, and then eventually breaking the high of the structure altogether. So continuing up to this high and trading into the daily imbalance, you can see the 4-hour imbalance here. If I put the daily upper perspective, now the daily imbalance is much bigger in comparison to the 4-hour area I'm looking for. Okay, and so the push up into this area, then the move down is what I'm looking for to occur, right? And the weekly, if I put the weekly up, right, so you can see how we're getting focused targets, right? Bigger, smaller, and then smaller. And then this is, obviously we can go down even lower time frames and refine this even more, but this is the area I'm looking for price to ultimately go up to and then continue down. So what I'm looking for obviously is a bearish profile that gives us a stop hunt high and then a drop, right? So our manipulation higher before the move down. And then these are the targets I'm looking for the manipulation if we can get above these zones, right? So this high up here above 104.40, and then the imbalance area, the 4-hour imbalance area up here, up at 104.50. Okay, so if you can see that initial move up and then the push down, that's what I would like to see here for DXY. All right, so let's go on over to the euro dollar and let's contrast that with what we're seeing on DXY. Okay, so for euro dollar, we can see from the monthly perspective here, we traded into a monthly imbalance. We had a very nice reaction here, creating this nice swing low. And today, at this point in time here, we are up almost, or actually just above the 108 big figure, right? So this month has been largely bullish, and you can see, we've got about a week left. So this week will be the final week of this month, and this month should close bullish unless some radical move pushes price lower at this point. But this month should close fairly bullish, right? We see that we have a reaction to this monthly imbalance here, which has caused price to reject and push lower at the moment, right? So just below this level here. Okay, so that is a a nice reaction to the imbalance here, but I don't know if that's going to result in a full-out reversal, right? So if we do close the month bullish, then we would expect price to continue. The initial push down here and then the continuation up would be the opposite of what we're seeing on the dollar, which is what we'd expect from euro dollar, right? We want to see basically an inverted dollar price action reaction. So this reaction here, right, sending price lower here, and then eventually if we do get a like a false move week beginning with a stop hunt low and a rise, that's what I would want to see. So let's go to the weekly and let's see if we can get something to that effect. So if we go to the weekly chart here, we can see the same exact kind of structure but inverted. So we have a bullish imbalance here that price created on this big push up, right? Price swept liquidity above the highs here, so we're retracing back into that bullish imbalance here, right? I don't know how far of a retracement we'd go back into this, but retesting this imbalance here and then going higher is what I would expect. Okay, so again, a big weekly kind of imbalance area that we can look for price to retrace and react from. So let's see if we can refine this area here on the daily, just like we did for the dollar. Okay, so on the daily, Here's a nice break of structure, okay, and even a smaller sweep of liquidity here right above this previous swing high, okay, and then the break of structure, and then the breakdown. The breakdown gives us the change of character, and then this, basically tells us that the order flow is currently bearish, looking for price to trade back into this daily imbalance here, right? So I'd be looking for a continuation lower into this daily imbalance. From there, if we get a reaction back up, then we can go back into the higher time frame order flow, which is bullish. But right now, at the moment, I'd like to see a move down into this daily imbalance area here. Okay, so this low right there, let's go to the 4-hour. Okay, and on the 4-hour, as you can see, we have actually a break of structure, right? A break of structure below, just like we had a break of structure above here on DXY. We've got a break of structure below here on Euro, right? And so the daily imbalance just below us here, okay, the 4-hour imbalance that we're looking for price to trade into is right here, just below us. Okay, and so looking for the move down, reaction, and then the continuation up again if we can get that, right? So just exactly the opposite here of what we're looking for on DXY. The low corresponding to the high is this low right here. Okay, and you can see how that is pretty much a mirror image inverted from the DXY move that we're expecting. All right, so false move week beginning, midweek reversal, and then an expansion to the upside afterwards, right? So you can get that here on Euro dollar. Let's take a look at GBP. Okay, so GBP on the monthly, as you can see, the same kind of move at the bottom here. We did not trade into the monthly imbalance. However, we traded into a monthly order block, right? And did not take out this low here. And then we see this nice reaction to the upside. GBP this month has also been largely bullish, so we can see a very strong bullish candle this month, likely going to be a bullish close. But as you know, there's still a week left. Anything could happen, but looks very likely that we're going to get a big bullish close here on the monthly. Now, trading up to the high here would be the next likely draw on liquidity if we remain bullish. Okay, so trading back above 134.35 big figure here, 134 big figure would be the draw to the upside. We do have to worry about trading into the monthly order block here. So this level would be the first area where we'd likely expect some resistance. Okay, so we're just about below the 130 big figure, just above 129 big figure. And then trading into the monthly order block here would send us up to 131. Okay, so let's take a look at the weekly. Now with the weekly, you can see that price has, just like EU, made a very large push the previous week and created this big bullish imbalance, right? So now looking for price to trade back into that imbalance and then pushing up into those areas above as we suggested. Okay, we also have a nice mitigation of the swing high over here that overlaps with the imbalance, which makes it a very nice target for a bounce if we actually do make it down to this level here. So this level is going to be roughly 128 big figure. And if we make it down there and trade into that weekly imbalance for the mitigation of that high, that will make for a nice bullish setup if we can get that kind of move. Well, let's go down to the daily. Let's see if we can kind of refine this on the daily to the same area. All right. So last week we were looking actually for price to come up and take out the highs, right, off of this push. Now you can see that price wasn't able to do that actually. We did make a run higher, okay, so we did make it up above the 130 big figure, but then price started to break down, right? So coming back to that level here that we just talked about on the weekly, let's put the weekly up here, right? The weekly imbalance, and then mitigating the swing high over here at the 128 level, right? That could be where price is now drawing to reach for, all right? There's also this imbalance here that we could come back to rebalance and then mitigate the swing high for the move up, right? So if we take off the weekly, the daily is sitting right here, right? We already actually got a reaction to this daily imbalance once here. So likely going to see price push a little bit further, right, into this, and then this target is right inside of it. So I would be looking for price to want to come back to mitigate the swing high over here. We could even go even lower, but this area right here is where I'll be looking for price sensitivity. All right, so if we go to the 4 hour and we take a look at the 4 hour markups, all right, we can also see price breaking down right after the break of structure here. Price breaking down, giving us a change of character, and then seeing price, slowly start to dump off at the end of the week. Not quite yet, below this, at least with some, some certainty, right? We're right at the swing low down here. We did wick below it here, and it looks like we will continue through opening the week. The low down here is where the next likely target is going to be if we're bearish. But if we look at the daily area here and the swing low, we're looking to mitigate at the lows here, right? That kind of falls right into where that's going to be. So this low here is going to be my next draw on liquidity, okay, for the downside, right? That's for GBP. And then seeing if we get a reaction after we trade down into here. So this is going to be right around that area here. So the 128 big figure, mitigating that swing high, and then trading back into this imbalance area here, sweeping the lows and the consolidation over here. Okay, so that'll be the direction, okay, that I'll look for. And then after that, obviously then looking for the move back to the upside. All right. And that is for GBP. And then let's go on over to gold next. All right. So now gold on the monthly, all right, we have been through the 3,000 level. So we've made all-time highs. Okay, this is kind of tricky, kind of territory once we do reach all-time highs, because, price is going to want to continue bullish. However, we're also going to be expecting some sort of retracement because we've hit a key level, right? So far, we haven't really seen any major retracements, right? And I think that, there's going to still be some development that happens before we actually do see that, okay? But remember, this is a monthly chart, okay, and a monthly candle. So we're going to end the month also likely bullish, right? But how we end the month is going to be interesting for me, right? So do we stay above the 3,000 level when we close the month, or do we come back below the 3,000 level? I think is going to speak a lot on what the next move or the next month is going to do, right? So if we go to the next month and we had a close below the 3,000, I think we'll get a deeper retracement. But if we stay above the 3,000 here, I think we will continue with the momentum and keep pushing higher, right? So let's go to the weekly here and let's take a look at the weekly reactions thus far. This week, we were looking for price to come back into this order block here, okay? You can see right here. And the continuation higher, right, above the 3,000 level. We didn't actually even pull back to this. It still remained pretty bullish, and then we continue up and through. So now you can see the weekly close is above that 3,000 level, right? The highest point we got to was 3,057, right? And then now we're retraced back into just about 3,023, right? So this imbalance here that's open and the order block is still fair game. So, if we do retrace back into that level here and get a bounce and a continuation, that is also highly possible, okay? And if we go to the daily chart, we can see that price is creating that swing high and starting to break down. So possibly we could see price start to move lower this week, all right? Now, if we go to the daily here, we can see that we've also created a daily imbalance. And initially, we can see that price has rejected and stayed above, okay? But it does look like we will continue based off of that close. If we do continue lower here, then these are the areas we'll be looking for price to come back to mitigate. So this is that weekly order block, right? This big down move here. And then the daily imbalance here would be the next target, provided that we trade through this one. Okay, so this one is currently holding price. Okay, we still haven't closed below or closed through this imbalance yet. But if we do, then the next area below that we would be looking for price to trade into would be this imbalance here and mitigating this swing high. Okay, so if price doesn't just go off this area, which you can see the perfect reaction from that 3,000 level, right, which sent price higher. If price does not continue to go up from here at this point, then we will look for price to trade a little bit lower into this imbalance here. Okay, so basically in here, and then mitigate the swing high and then continue in the uptrend, right? And then we'll see how price reacts at that level, right? If it holds or if it breaks. So if we go to the 4-hour and we take a look at the 4-hour structure, right? We can see right here is where we had that nice reaction off of the 3,000 level, right? Perfect kind of bounce, okay? And now currently trading back into this 4-hour imbalance that we've created. But you can see that the structure has already started to turn bearish, right? We have the 4-hour change of character and this imbalance that forms, right? We have some big bearish candles forming. The momentum is bearish. So this right here is where we would actually likely see price sell off if it does, because we have the mitigation of the low here. We have the swing high here, right? Which took out some liquidity. So this range right here is where I'd be looking for price to continue the sell off, right? So although we closed the day here bullish on Friday, trading back into this bearish point of interest, I'll be curious to see if price continues through this and trades above, because if we do, then like I said, it's likely that we're just going to go straight for this high, okay? But if we do see a reaction here, notice that we also have a 4-hour order block in here as well. Okay, so we have the imbalance and the order block here sitting for price to react from, which potentially could send price lower, right? And then we could see something like this, okay? But if price does continue and just basically ram right through the highs here, then I will be looking for price to continue to seek liquidity above the all-time high up here, above 3,057. Okay, so one of two scenarios that can play out here, right? Let's just mark it for study purposes, right? This is the two outcomes that I would like to see happen on gold. Okay, so that is for gold. Now let's drop into the futures markets. Okay, so when we go over to NASDAQ next. All right, so if you're trading futures with us in the VIP group, you guys have, or maybe you haven't, but watching along and following along with us in the VIP group, we've been catching some pretty good setups here on the NASDAQ this week. We had some tricky trades also. Okay, so it wasn't a perfect week, but there were certainly some setups that were available, some opportunities that did present itself. So taking a look at the monthly, we can see that we have a okay, so let's get into the NASDAQ monthly. As you can see here, we have a very bearish month, right? And the continuation lower is what we should expect following the order flow and looking for price to run the current low, which down here is 19,345, right? 0.75. So continuing the bearish momentum into the next month is what we should expect. However, trading into a monthly OB here again, and possibly, getting, the reaction that we're getting right now, seeing price trade back up, could give us a little retracement first, right? So if we go to the weekly, what we can see is that we're trading into a weekly order block here, right? And that is the cause right now of price giving us this little bullish retracement. So this week we closed with a little bullish doji here, okay? Which means that, price, obviously momentum, everything is still bearish, and we are still expecting price to go lower. However, there is a possibility now that we get a little retracement higher first, okay, before we go lower. And if you put your attention here to the chart, you can see that we do have a little gap, a little volume gap here that we could trade into if we trade higher. Okay, and this is where I would likely see price, want to reach for if we are going to be bullish this week. And also just above that, we also have the imbalance as well, right? So overlapping with the little volume gap, we also have the weekly imbalance. So overall, if we do follow up with last week's, bullish close and go higher, then trading into here is where I'd expect the next reaction lower to continue with the bearish downtrend, right? So maybe an initial push up into the zone here, and then, continuation with the higher time frame, or in this case here, the bearish order flow to continue to take out, the lows down here, right? Now, if we drop down to the daily chart, okay, and we can see the daily structure here. This last week was, pretty rangy, if if you want to say, if you want to describe it like that, right? Very rangy, very consolidating ranges that we had. Okay, and trading back to the upside here is likely. If we want to see price trade into this weekly imbalance up here, we'll have to likely trade above the highs. So this is going to be where I would target the draw on liquidity, right? The nearest draw that we have is that swing high that we have right here. That's going to be just above 20,000, right? So we got 20,165, and then trading into that weekly imbalance up here. Okay, and the volume gap that we have here, right, above the levels, which is around the 20,500 level. Okay, so essentially I'm looking for price to do something like this, okay, and then continue lower after we get a reaction, a bearish reaction here. Now, if we continue and keep pushing higher, then obviously we're going to be expecting a big retracement, but this is likely where I'm going to be targeting first. Okay, this is the closest draw on liquidity that I would likely see price like to reach for. So on the 4 hour, if we take a look at the 4 hour, right, some things that I've noticed is, at the lows, we have a little bit of divergence with ES and YM, right? Whereas NASDAQ here just barely scraped out this low, okay, just by 2 points. We see that NASDAQ has taken the low, but if we look over on ES, which we will go over in a second, and YM, you can see that we did not take that low, right? So there is a little bit of a bullish divergence that's happening here at the lows. We can see the subsequent reaction from that, right, with the bullish close that we had on Friday, pushing price higher back up into the range. And you also notice that, the 4 hour structure right now currently is bullish, right? We can see price making higher highs and higher lows as we go. Okay, so likely the target that we're drawing to now are going to be the highs here, okay? And also there is a bearish imbalance just above us as well, right around this level. So this is likely going to be the next draw on liquidity for me as we start the week, right? So looking for NASDAQ to push higher and take out these highs up here and then trade into this 4 hour imbalance and then see if we get a reaction after that. Okay, pretty straightforward. With ES, if we take a look at ES, it's going to be very similar price action to NQ. Okay, again, bearish month. Okay, trading back down into the bearish, the bullish order block, the monthly order block here. Okay, we've already taken out September lows here. Okay, in this case. So in that regard, if we go over to NQ, there is some divergence there, right, regarding that, because NQ did not take out September lows, but ES did, right? So the reaction there also, this is bullish divergence, right? So we would respect that low being taken out and seeing price push higher, and that's exactly what we got, right? So right after we got that sweep of the low, price reacted and pushed all the way back up to here, okay? And that's where we're currently sitting. So if we go to the weekly, right, we can see that price after sweeping this low, right, traded back up, and we got this little bullish weekly close last week, okay, after trading into this bullish weekly order block, just like we did on NQ. The difference here being that we have a little bullish divergence since ES took this low, but NQ didn't. So where are we looking for price to head now, right? So if we continue with the bullish momentum that we closed off of last week and go higher, ES also has a weekly imbalance and also a little volume gap as well, right? So looking for price to go like this, right? And then continue into the downtrend again once we get a bearish reaction here. If we get a bearish reaction here, very important, right? Because price could obviously go straight through. So this is the first target that we'll look for this week here on ES, very similar to NQ. The daily draw on liquidity is going to be the same swing high, right? And then trading into that weekly imbalance area here, right? So looking for this pin bar to continue up, hit the highs, and then continue lower. Right? So on the 4-hour, more of the same. Right? We can see the 4-hour, there's the divergence here. And I could show you the low here is, let's move the candle here. The low here on this low is 5,650.75. And the high over here, or sorry, the low over here is 5,651.25, right? So just a touch above, right? Didn't quite make it there, okay? But on NQ, if I go to NQ and compare the lows, the low on NQ here is 19,604.25, and the low over here is 19,602.25, which means that we went just about 2 points lower, right? So we took the low here on NQ. We did not take the lows here on ES. We subsequently got divergence at the lows and then this reaction, right? Nice big bullish candles to close out the week. Right now, reaching for this high is going to be the next draw on liquidity, and then also the imbalance above here, just like NQ. Okay, once we get a closure above this high, that's going to be a change of character, right? And then I'll likely see price reach for those highs after that, just like that. Okay, so that's going to do it for the analysis and the overview this week. I hope you guys find that helpful. And of course, as with every week, I hope you guys are able to use the information to catch some amazing setups for yourself for the upcoming trading week, right? If you know anybody that's going to also benefit from the information, please don't hesitate to share the video. Make sure you are subscribed to get the latest updates from me and the latest uploads. Feel me.